G'day, my friends, and welcome to Marty's Garden. I've still got a bit of a croaky throat, as you know, if you've seen some of my messages and things. I've been battling with a flu, but slowly getting better, and wouldn't say I'm 100%, I'm probably 75, something like that. But I come across this story, and I've talked about this before, and I just needed to share it with you all because a lot of people don't know, like what's going on in sort of like behind the scenes in agricultural circles. And, there are many other reasons why we are having inflation and the world is changing around us drastically to do with food production and things. And, we need those things. We need housing, clothing, food and shelter, to survive. And so I just thought I'd bring this forward today for you all to watch. I've got an interesting story for you, and also what I believe is a solution. Now, I don't come across as being the super expert on this. It's just something that I wanted to share and what I've come across in my years of working in agriculture and being in this game, and always looking at the stories and things that's going on. What I want to do before we move to this story about what's happening in the Netherlands at the moment is I just want to talk about the future of nitrogen, right? Because we need to go right back, and I've got some notes here. It was 1840, and there was a man, he's a Prussian guy, and his name was Alexander von Humboldt. Now, he was traveling through South America, and he come across bat guano, right? And look, soils had already been depleted throughout Europe. They were running out of food. Soil depletion, they only relied on nitrogen in the soil, and they were tilling the soil. They weren't actually doing above ground soil systems like we do now. They tilled and then moved to another spot, let it sit fallow, and then go back and do it again. So they were slowly degrading their soil, like we have done for a very long time here in Australia and all over the place with soil degradation, then going into what they call desertification, which is the final stage when you just can't farm there anymore. And so when he discovered bat guano, he saw that there was a big market there, and that the Europeans and everyone, around those times, there was a lot of fighting going on between countries, and I don't know, like my history of America and stuff like that so much, but I think there was some as well going on in that time. And they flew under the radar for quite some time, going backwards and forwards from South America, bringing back guano. So it's very high in nitrogen, very high in different minerals and things like that. So guano is bird droppings or bat droppings. And they were using that to replenish soils. And then all of a sudden, all the other governments started seeing that there was a lot of value in it. So this war started off, right? And it ran for about 50 years, I believe, this war. And I think about 18,000 people were killed at times. And that's why I've got in my thumbnail the two battleships, because they actually were fighting, and they weren't sinking over gold and treasures. They were fighting over that commodity, right? And so people don't realize that actually behind the scenes, since 1840 to 1909, there has been a war on nitrogen. And now we're reversing that war, saying that nitrogen's bad and that we need to we need to get rid of it. Now, it's not that nitrogen's bad; it's the overuse, the exhaustion of nitrogen that's been the problem. And it was so cheap for so long that farmers just overzealously used it. And when it was introduced to them after the Second World War, because we had an oversupply of nitrogen, and they saw how quickly things could grow and how fast they could turn over cash crops, and greed set in and things. And then over the years, they noticed, hang on, our soils aren't getting better. We'll just add more of this nitrogen, you'll be right. Just add more and more and more until eventually we've got these big, massive farms that are running around on computers these days with tractors and things like that. And I'm not want to get into sort of bagging all those systems. It's brought a lot of people out of poverty, and it's helped feed a lot of the world. And, there's obviously, there's more to it than what I'm bringing here. But what I want to bring to you now, So I just want to let you know the story has never stopped. It just hasn't been something that goes on in the media. And so what I want to do now is I want to bring a story to you all the way from the Netherlands in Europe. And basically, this is quite scary stuff, actually. And I think it's something that many of you would be interested in reading. And so I'll bring it forward, and then, we'll do some a Q&A and things like that, and some comments and stuff as we go as well. Now, I am using new software. I've changed over, and so things might run and look a little bit different here. I'm trialing this one. You can see the logo up in the right hand corner, EV Mux, and so hopefully all goes well and that we don't have too many hiccups. But it looks fairly simple to use, and I think I'm coming through nice and clearly via my recording here. You can hear me okay. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go across to this story, and I'll read it out, and then we'll get to the comments. All right, so here we go. Let's whack it onto the left-hand side there. And now I've got to go across to hopefully this scrolls through and everything works good. Like it's, as I said, new software, and having a bit of a syndrome here. Here we go. Nitrogen war in Netherlands, an anticipation of things to come. Now, I watched a guy on YouTube speaking about this. He's an economist, and really stirred my interest. And then I found this article online, and it shows some cattle there and things like that. Underneath the photo, it says Netherlands admits a large quantity of nitrogen because of its massive agriculture industry, which accounts for about 80% of this country's 124 million kilogram of annual ammonia emissions. Then it says farmers in the Netherlands are revolting over the government's plan to drastically reduce nitrogen emissions by 2030, and is pointing to agriculture and farmers as the worst offenders. But farmers have taken to the streets, blocking roads and distribution centres, and there has been some serious incidents, including police opening fire on protesters. It all looks as the nitrogen war in Netherlands is an anticipation of the conflict between environment awareness organisations and agriculture industry over production systems and its consequences. I really understand their anger, Marcel Kroc, a Dutch science writer and co-founder of the Climate Intelligence Foundation, said in an interview. The farmers are also angry because they say we are the only sector who get all the blame. What about industry? What about the traffic? Maybe we should just ban all the cars in the Netherlands because they also emit nitrogen. This plan, as announced in practice, means that in certain areas, farmers have to reduce their nitrogen emissions by 70%, he continued. This means they simply have to quit. The proposal to sharply cut nitrogen emissions is tied to 2019 Dutch court decision forcing the nation's government to take more aggressive measures to curb nitrogen emissions. The Netherlands, though, has guardedly regulated agriculture emissions since the 1990s, and farmers have largely complied with their such rules, Kroc said. Netherlands admits a large quantity of nitrogen because of its massive agriculture industry, which accounts for about 87% of the country's 124 million kilograms of annual ammonia emissions. A US Department of Agriculture report showed the nation exported US $26.8 billion worth of food products despite having a relatively tiny population compared to other major producers, according to the World Bank data. It is not very rational to curb the Dutch agriculture if you realise that they have the highest production per acre in the world, and therefore the environmental load per kilogram is slower than anywhere else. Simon Roosendaal, a Dutch journalist and chemist, said, so in a sense, Dutch agriculture is a benefit for climate as well as biodiversity. This will definitely affect ordinary civilians and is a part of the global agenda. So everyone around the world, especially Western countries, should be aware that this is not just about Dutch government. This is a part of the 2030 agenda. This is a part of the Great Reset. Similar protests could soon happen in the UK and parts of the European Union, where natural gas and energy costs are near historic levels. According to Benny Picer, the director of London-based Global Warming Policy Foundation in the UK, increased prices are expected to send 24% of households, or 6.5 million households, into fuel poverty. The issue is that despite this growing energy crisis in Europe, some governments still prioritise the climate agenda, which makes energy more expensive, or which forces farmers to close their farms because of this top priority still. For a number of governments, Pearce argued, the whole green agenda is causing huge burdens. The Dutch are driven mad by these policies because it's killing their businesses and the farmers are fighting back big time. He said, what's going to happen? He said, this is going to happen all over Europe. I have no doubt that come winter and millions of families can't heat their home or pay their bills anymore, that will be unrest all over Europe. Okay, let's remove that from the dynamic. That's pretty heavy, eh? And I didn't really want to mention things like that much about on this channel, about like the Great Reset and different agendas and things like that. There is a little bit more to that story, and I don't have the actual links and everything to come up to, but since 2015, the Dutch have been looking at building a smart city, and they need a lot of land to build that. And there is some stuff online about the models and everything for these smart cities. So if they remove the farms, they have the space to put in the smart cities. Now, one of the issues is that obviously they need to bring in other forms of nitrogen because they're going to need to feed people. This is what really blows me away, is there's so many answers to this. And if we go right back to Bill Mollison into permaculture systems, into different organic farming systems, regenerative farming, things like that. We know the science is there that we don't need this excess nitrogen. There's other ways to actually re-establish and rebuild these farms to be more sustainable. And, look, it started, in Australia. There's people that have been doing it for the last 40, 50 years down in Victoria and getting better success than the other guys right next door to them. So it's a really quite heavy to see. Now, again, as we go back and we look at nitrogen, again, and I mentioned this probably about a year ago about another show where I spoke about the wars in South America during the 1800s. Well, basically, it went from 1800 to 1909. Like not wars, but, like behind the scene battles are going on, like Cold Wars and things like that people don't really know about. And, the excess of nitrogen. And so, and then, you look at the history of after 1909, the history of nitrogen again gets really, really scary. And, it's been right in front of us this whole time. Like the English, when they went in to basically grab all the nitrogen from the guano from South America, and the Spanish and everyone, and they were going in to grab it to sell it to make money and, grow more crops so they can build their civilization, basically. And, like if they got more food, they can feed more people and build out and, the whole thing. So, it's been global agenda ever since they discovered more nitrogen so they can feed more people. And now they're saying, hey, well, we need to take it away. It's quite bad, but it's just the management of nitrogen that's been really bad, and the greed and everything that's been going over it. So there are solutions to these problems, and it's been sitting right in front of their face the whole time. Is the whole composting system, is all the food waste that we have is basically nitrogen, right? And we're just throwing it out. Like if you look at like the war against waste, that didn't really work very well. It lost its media traction quite quickly, but they were onto something really good. And there's all this food that was getting wasted every day, and also the amounts of things like coffee grounds and all this crazy stuff. And now the councils around Australia, by the next 5 to 10 years, are going to be saying, hey, you need to deal with all your waste yourself. We're not going to be picking up your green waste. So, and I know this before for sure, because I spoke with a council down in Port Macquarie about a year ago exactly about this. So now, before we can move any more forward, we've got a few people here, and I would like to just bring them in and test my comments box here and see how this works. And g'day, Dad. There's my dad, Arthur Thomas Ware. He's a very famous public speaker, and on his channel actually he has public speaking tips. So I still believe there's still some really good content on there. So g'day, Dad. Thought I'd give you a shout out while you're there, mate. And we got Karen here. Some of these comments come in a bit earlier. Waiting here in California, hoping is live is indication you're doing a bit better. All right, well, you can hear my voice. I'm still a bit croaky, and supposed to go to a New Year's Eve party tonight. Don't know if I'll be making it, but we'll see. And next one, here we go. Time to make coffee. Yes, time to make coffee. And let's just have a little bit of a trick, little bit of play here with these comments to get them across and see if I'm working them correctly. Good morning from Adelaide, Mel Smith. Good morning to you, Mel. And here we go. This is interesting how it pops up at the bottom. Good morning, Marty and the gang. Looking forward to today's talk. Well, hopefully, a bit of history and a bit of stuff that's going on into the future will help. With that, we'll have a bit of a worm farming, gardening Q&A towards the end for sure. A bit of fun here and to let you in on a bit of news. And yeah. All right. If I miss you, please do not comment. Please do not get upset. I'm just using this, still getting used to getting it all going. And so good morning, Christina there. And g'day, Barry. Happy New Year to you, mate, and all that's listening. Oh, another happy little worm farming channel here. Shares Worm and Garden. Good morning to you. And cool climate, tropical fruits. G'day, Marty. 18 bees. Oops. This is a good topic. Yeah, it is. If you're interested in this type of thing, it's just something that I wanted to bring forward. I know it's not for everyone, but people who have been following me for quite some time know that I'm very passionate about soils. I'm very passionate about our environment, and I'm very passionate about creating a nice, beautiful backyard and creating sustainability for ourselves I'm really for that sort of, not the globalisation side of things, but more for, local farming, local, buy local and along those lines. But it all connects all together, and things like this just need to be shared. So hopefully you're enjoying the topic. And good morning, Marty and everyone. Let's wiggle into 2023 joyfully. Yes, for sure. Now, if you come across anything that I say or whatever, just understand, I'm not coming across as being the super expert in this. So just sharing a story and my thoughts on it. And so go a bit easy on the comments if you're watching it and the reruns and things like that. We want to keep things nice and friendly. And also, YouTube just removes anything that gets a bit nasty along those lines. So, and we will keep moving along here. And we've got my friend Deb. G'day, Deb's backyard. Good morning, Marty and everyone. There's a few people saying hello to each other in here. And a few people saying hello to me at the same time. And good morning there, Cheryl. And good comment. No farmers, no food. Now, as I said before, it looks as though they want to push away some of these farms. There's more to it than to do with just the climate stuff, because when you look at the science, at the science of it all, we just look at China and India, these upcoming countries and things, especially China, they're basically making all these emissions and things like that. And these tiny little things, they have different agendas behind this smoke screens and things going on. And, they just play these games with us. And, the media, really, unfortunately, we can't always get the right information for them. And we've only got to look at the food that we've been given and driven to us over the years. And I've actually stopped in the last few months, off and on, testing how much carbs I eat. and just looking at it and going, hang on, I'm just eating way too much wheat, I'm eating way too much corn, way too much synthetic product. And now that I'm growing a lot more food in the backyard, I'm looking at this and going, hey, I just replace this with that, and my body at first was just like, oh, really craving the carbs. But I found that my sleep apnea has gotten better. I'm feeling much healthier. I'm controlling weight, and I haven't been surfing as much, and yeah, feeling like pretty good. And just replacing it with fresh food, so a bit of meat, a bit of salad, veggies, things like that. And really, I've really cut back on. I don't eaten pasta in ages. A little tiny little bit of rice, and sort of looking back and going, okay, hang on. We really don't need all this processed food as much as we do. But obviously, again, no farmers, no food. That is definitely it. And it's all to do with the way that we've actually been marketed to and the way we've managed things for farmers. I've always felt really sorry for farmers, to tell you the truth, because they're obviously, everything's so expensive, and now with the price of nitrogen as well, it's out of control because of the obviously because of what's going on overseas in Europe and things like that, with the big blue going on there. And so that's pushed up expenses for us. But we can actually, like, by growing a little bit of our own food at home, even just a small amount, we can actually bring a better quality food to our table, and also more high nutrition and better flavor, all those things. But we still need these farmers, and just cutting them out and telling them, hey, you've got to go. I just can't believe that. It doesn't really comprehend with me. And what some of the economists are saying is that this is like a testing point. So in California, they have a testing point for these agendas. In America, and then in Europe, they're using this, like, oh man, the Netherlands, as this testing point to start to see what's going to happen. And I'm really hoping that people actually push back more against this. Like it has a lot to do with the Great Reset, and also to do with that, along those lines and those agendas. And we don't want to get too far into that, but if you haven't looked into it, I suggest that you actually do and look at, I'm just trying to think of the name, but it'll come to me in a minute. All right, so let's get back. And all this woke stuff, absolutely ridiculous. I absolutely agree. It's all connected to create these smokes and mirrors and things like that, and take away out. But people are standing up against it now. They're pretty much tired of it. And so, like, in the families and things like that, and and now really we're here to discuss about farming and nitrogen. And worm farming has always been in front. It hasn't been in the front of the forefront. Because it's not sexy and beautiful and all that, but it produces the best quality nitrogen that there is, because it produces a pH neutral worm casting, which is actually slow release, and it's made from our waste. It just seems, like on the technology that we have today to create these big, massive, systems, and we only need 10% of it to be placed into these farms, and it doesn't actually release the bad chemicals into the rivers and things like that, greening up and making green algae and stuff like that. It's just been sitting in front of our faces for so long. Yeah, it's crazy. Anyway, we'll keep moving forward here. There's a few people chatting, going down under. G'day, mate. Nice to see you here. Climate change agenda. Yes. Well, people are starting to see through a lot of it now. I'm not saying that the climate's always changing. There's no doubt about that. And all we need to do is look back at history, though. If you want to really get a good understanding of things, we need to look at history and what's coming forward. So, yeah, the World Economic Forum have an agenda, and people are sucking it up. It's really sad that is the case. And actually, the World Economic Forum did have their label attached to this thing going on in Netherlands, right? So yeah, they're everywhere, and it's really sad to see. But thank goodness there's people letting people know, actually, to wake up yourselves a little bit and see what's going on. That the next big thing is digital currencies and stuff like that. So we need to sort of protect ourselves in different ways and things. And, really, I'm not a prepper, never really have been. but I sort of consider myself one now because I'm looking at all this stuff that's going on around me and going, hang on, I'm losing my voice. I'm losing what I believe that I want to say. I'm not seeing, like in over the years, debates and things going on, whether you choose one side or the other should always be a debate, and then that one side wants to just close off the debate and go, I'm not talking to you because you disagree. That's the whole thing about a debate, right? So anyway, yeah. Cheryl Hawker, I'm autistic, so not easy me for take information written that in. Sorry, no worries. So that's why I spoke it out because this is actually really hard for me as well because I'm dyslexic. But I was able to read that out. And if anyone's missed that so far, you can type in "Remember the Guano Wars," and that's the first article that I didn't read it out, but that's where I got some of the information from. And then you've got the Nitrogen War in Netherlands, and that's the second one. So the Nitrogen War in Netherlands is where you'll get some of the information, and a whole lot of stuff will pop up actually on about that. So here we go. Let's get this across. I just want to stay on topic here. Okay, let's keep moving forward. G'day, Rick. Thanks for coming, mate, and supporting us. Thanks, everyone, for coming and supporting us so far. It must be coming, the sound must be coming in okay, and everything's working all right using this different software because I haven't heard anyone say I can't hear you, Marty, or anything like that. So, yeah, thanks for your patience with me with this. Excuse me, as we're coming in live. Couple of burps there. Here we go. Happy New Year, Marty. It's supper time here. Happy New Year, KP. All the best. Hope you had a wonderful Christmas from Mountaintop Wigglers. I did actually. It was really cool. And I didn't do too much. I haven't been that well, but anyway, we're getting there. Let's have a look at what Down Under Fuller says. Market prices skyrocketed when sneakily sold our rail out from under us, leaving the trucking industry to distribute food. Yeah, look, there's so much, so much in this. This is why I'm sort of really into, like if we can support local and grow our own as much as possible. Now, I admit it, I go to Woolies, the local one, and the big supermarket. I buy some stuff there. And I don't really attend the Friday local market here at Mullumbimby where I should, but I just don't generally have the time. But I grow so much of my own food now. I'm definitely doing the over 30% going onto the table. And by next year, once all the fruit trees and everything, and nut trees and everything start kicking in, we'll probably start reaching around between 45, getting close to 50%. And with a cutback of me not eating so much, grains and things like that, cutting back on carbs and getting my sugar levels really good and my health good, I feel that, yeah, I won't be buying too much at all, actually. Got some capsicums starting to grow, and I'm really excited about getting those because it means that, hang on, now won't have to buy capsicums, but I've got to start creating and create grow systems where I can grow them and harvest and not run out. So that's the next tricky part to it. Here we go, another comment. Okay. That's KP. I just harvested snow peas for supper. They made it through the freeze. Well, that's awesome. And yes, did you save some seed? That's the thing. If we can save some seed and then grow it again, that's awesome stuff. Let's have a look at Mountaintop Wigglers here again. Lost 50% of my worms, power outage for too long and sub-zero temps. Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, that's really sad, mate. This is probably to do, so you're obviously in Europe somewhere, and 50% is quite a lot. So yeah, my hat goes off to you, and I'm sure everyone here watching this show here as well. Feel really sorry for you, mate. Hopefully you can find some way to be able to heat them into the future if we're going to be coming across these problems again. And we got no bees, no food, so I care about the pollinators. Yes, and we've got our friend here for a bee channel here as well. He does. And I totally agree. And I've been planting a lot of herbs because I didn't see many bees in my garden initially. And I've been throwing out a whole lot of coriander. I've got a whole lot of basil coming on. They love that white coriander flower. And so now, as some of my fruit trees and some of my natives and things are going to start flowering soon, bring in a lot more bees and pollinators, and that means we bring in a whole lot of sort of like a good balance of insects from the good and the bad, which we need both of them. And then you start seeing all types of stuff going on, and then balances together in this permaculture systems to self-regulate, and you don't have to use sprays and things like that. And I haven't put one spray out there, not even an organic spray as of yet, and as I didn't in my last garden where I was as well. And so yeah, we need to take care of our pollinators. That's for sure. Okay, there's some comments in here. Check it out about the World Economic Forum. Um, some people, and like it's good to have um, people commenting in here at the same time. If you're coming through and sort of coming in late, I read an article about the nitrogen wars in Netherlands. You can go back and rewatch that or listen to that, or you can type in the nitrogen wars in Netherlands into Google, and you will find the information there. And there's all this big push of what some of the economists are saying is that the big push towards smart cities will then, like the agenda is actually to get rid of farms. And if you look at a lot of the very wealthy people, they've been going through and buying a lot of the farms, and they own quite a lot of the countryside. A lot of Australia, the farms are owned by Chinese now. It's crazy what's been going on. And so, again, it's just, if we support our economies locally as best we can, and grow our own food and and prepare ourselves for these types of things, then we don't have to worry about it so much. I know everyone doesn't have the space, but what I recommend to people that don't have the space is you grow some cherry tomatoes, a few vertical plants such as cucumbers, peas, beans, and grow your herbs that you can grow. And if you've got enough sunshine through the year, grow a few chilies and things like that are biannual plants, such as parsley and things that you can get anywhere from 2 to 4 years out of these plants and keep them growing on. Your cherry tomatoes you do as indeterminates. If you're having bad seasons, so they just produce in 6 weeks a whole lot of fruit, and you harvest and you keep succession plantings going of those. And when you've got cherry tomatoes, basil, parsley, oregano, and thyme, you've got so many variations to cook with there, from meats to sauces, salads, and things. With a bit of lettuce, and you're away. And in summer, I go my kangkong as a lettuce substitute, the betel leaf, and also a few other little sort of Asian herbs and things. All right, so let's keep moving forward here. Some people chatting here again. And here we go. See, I can't read this all the time, but people don't understand that though, Marty. They don't understand about worms. Yeah, so basically, like the compost worm will produce a nitrogen sac, which is their poo, which is then also full of other different types of minerals and biology and things like that. And then it actually can store really quite well, and you can dry it out too. That will lose some of its biology when you do dry it out, but it still holds the NPK that is required, and also a lot of the minerals and things. It just loses some of the biology, such as the microbes and things, when it's dried. But it still actually is just as good or better as a synthetic nitrogen source, because it doesn't create any problems in the environment. It doesn't ruin the rivers, it doesn't wreck the creeks, it doesn't poison the land. And there is, where I live not far from here, Lismore, they have the city of Lismore, they do a huge composting system, and worm farming is a part of that. And it's the only city that I know of, or small big country town, that does something like that. Okay, let's keep moving through. And as I said, if I miss any comments, please forgive me. New software, and some people are chatting in here, and if I miss something, yeah, that can be the case. Okay, so keep moving through. It's some pretty interesting comments here to do with what we've been discussing. So yeah, I recommend that you read them through. I can't read them all out, but some of them go a little bit off topic. But there are some interesting things people are saying in here. Anyway, we've got 18Bs, one of my favorite channels now online. I just love the new content, and mate, the stories and things you've been bringing out, they're just fabulous. And this really sort of resonates with me and what I do with, and 18Bs is obviously into his worm farming as well, and doing quite well, I believe, but takes care of these wild hives and growing them logs and setting them up in different places. And it's just, oh man, you got to see it. It's just, it's gold. It's gold stuff. So if anyone hasn't checked out 18Bs, please do if you're interested in that type of thing. And let's read out what he's got to say. When you compare wild honeybees versus managed honeybees, it opens your eyes to serious problems ahead for us humans. Yeah, I'm sure. Have you got a piece of content on that, mate? If you have, maybe let people know what the title is called and they can go and check it out. Yes, Marty, it is coming. Yeah, if you don't think it's not coming, be aware. It's been smoke and mirrored underneath us for the last few years. As I said, I haven't really said anything, but now I feel that people need to start to know, even from a small channel as myself, so they can see and start making decisions for yourself and for your family, how you want to be treated into these coming years of going ahead, because the global agenda, even Prince Charles is a part of the World Economic Forum. So go there, guys. There's a lot going on. Top Wiggler's Guide. Sounds good here, Marty. Thank you very much. Everyone said this sounds good. Sounds good. That's really good to hear. The screen comments are blurry from my end. Okay, that's interesting. They're very small compared to the other one that I was using, but that could be also your connection. So just let me know if, like this is EV Marks is quite a big company now, and I'm sure that if there is a problem with that, that will be sorted out in the very near future. All clear on my iPhone. Maybe it's my iPhone, Deb. Yeah, something like that. But yeah, it could be connection or anything like that. Let's have a look at what KP's got to say here. We chatted about those in garden worm bins over your live with Tony. I got an update their use. We put them in small beds so they can find. Oh, sorry, I've sort of lost a bit track on there, mate. Maybe it'll come back to me. As I said, I'm still not 100% in health, so not everything I can remember. But yeah, glad I'm on the mend. Thanks, Elizabeth. We're getting there. We're getting there. Drinking water, as you see at the moment. And Mountaintop Wigglers, he says that I'm in the US, just south of Buffalo and the east a bit. Okay, right. Oh yes, it must get fairly cold there at night. And what do we got here? Hello from Oklahoma, USA. Love your accent. Well, I got the crusty, rusty throat voice at the moment because like I'm just getting over this flu. As I said, I want to go to a friend's really great New Year's party tonight. It's going to be just insane. I'm not a drinker, but I'd go in there and just turn up and have a dance and maybe listen to some music, bit of a boogie. But we'll have to see how we're going this afternoon. See if my daughter's car's up for it. Anyway, if I'll be back next week with some videos and things like that, so I can see it all happening. So Happy New Year to you all. If I forget to say that from now, getting too into this nitrogen war and the guano wars going right back from the 1800s. It's pretty interesting stuff, right? Well, I find it interesting anyway, and I'm sure that others do. And then we can really find out why and where it's moving and what it's sort of pushing to. And like I just look like my garden beds. I built those 3 raised garden beds with Mark from Self Sufficient Me, and I went and bought the best soil that I could find around here, and I've got to be honest with you, it wasn't that good. I wasn't that happy with it. I was like, okay, this is what I've got to use. It'll grow stuff. I'll just slowly make it better and better. But I paid top dollar for that stuff. Anyway, they told me I didn't do the pH, and they told me it was slightly closer to neutral, more possibly slightly acidic. And I'm like, okay, I can work with that. You know what I got there, and it was 8.5 alkalinity when I tested it. One of my friends complained to me. He said, "What did you use?" And I said, "I used such and such." And he goes, "Mate," he goes, "it's no good. Go and check it." And I'm like, "Nah, it'll be fine. It'll be cool." And I'm trying to think, Bill, I don't want to deal with the problem, right? Anyway, I've gone and checked it. Yep, alkaline. I'm going, okay, well, all the nutrients aren't going to get uptaken in the plant. So I started putting down, putting worm castings in, putting more mushroom compost in, and slowly getting it better. But again, this is the problem with our soils. We don't produce a good quality organic nitrogen, and it's just not done. Like when I had Marty's Garden Compost going, I basically sold out nearly all the time because of that problem. I was solving that problem, but it was really hard work, and it's, I didn't want to mechanicalize it so much, because then it would lose its purity, and I just don't like machines too much as well. So and now I've got to start all over again, making my own compost on my own soils with the windrows and the worm farming and all that type of stuff to make my own stuff, because I'm not going to buy that crap again. It's just bad stuff, and everywhere you go, all the way up and down the coast of Australia, it's just terrible, and it's getting worse all the time. And the stuff the government makes, they just pasteurize it and kill everything, and there's human poo in it, and rubbish bags and plastic, and just terrible stuff. And they're getting rid of that anyway. It's contracted through another company, and they're losing their contracts, and so. Our soils, man, we're in big problems, and basically just feeding everything with this synthesized nitrogen isn't the solution either. And they're saying now we'll just stop using it altogether on these certain farms, because you reckon the environment. You go, hang on, well, why don't you just stop using cars and shut down China? You know what I mean? Like fair income, like this tiny little thing of, Deutschland, Netherlands or whatever. They want to remove, and I didn't mention this, it's not in the article, they want to actually get rid of every farm. It's not just some farms. They're talking about removing all the farms. Now that is just absolutely crazy in my opinion. As someone said before, no farms, no food, and that's what happens is then, okay, the people that live close to these farming areas that have access to all this food, their prices go right up because of supply and demand, and then inflation goes up even more. And man, I'll tell you what, they're just creating more and more problems around this, instead of looking at solutions such as sustainable farming and building. If they're going to build these smart cities, then okay, you have some smart farms, but also build around the outside of them in these models, urban farms that are sustainable, that are connected to forests, and they're connected, like to the rivers and creeks and things, and get the best permaculturists in the world there, fixing the soils and turning these systems into food, into sustainable food systems. They've already proven that they can do it. They're talking about taking them all the way. This is where we just go, hang on, wow, this is really, really gnarly. Okay, we've got a few people coming in still saying g'day, and I'd like to hear your thoughts on that, what you think about that. Like the Netherlands, the government, and are they just totally losing the plot here? If you were a farmer, would you stand up to that? I know I would, and there's no way you'd be getting me. But they're talking about they're going to be forced to sell their land. Like they're not, they're getting offers saying, okay, you can take this now. But they're actually going to be forced out. This is what's even scarier. And hang on, what year are we in now? You know what I mean? It just really bothers me. Anyway, let's keep moving through here. Planning to do some hydroponics fed from my pond in the coming year. You're awesome. Have you looked at the aquaponics side of things from ponds? It's really quite interesting as well. And let's keep moving through here. Yeah, you got a sub there, 18 Beast. There you go, mate. There's a few people commenting and going on. Let's move into some worm farming questions now, if you've got any, because we've got another 15 minutes to go. And if you've got any questions for me, we will fire away with that, because, yeah, let's get into it. I'm sure you've got some for me, and I'll let you know how things are going in my end of the world. I'm just scrolling through here to pull up some comments. As I said, people have been chatting, and I'm still getting used to this software. We've got this one from Rick Thilane here. Farmers will have to resort to nitrogen fixes like clovers and cover crops to get their nitrogen resting paddocks, not continuous using the land for the food. Yeah, so more sustainable practices, and this is what I said right at the beginning, Rick, is actually it's not so much the problem with nitrogen, it's the problem of management and the marketing of nitrogen over the years, even to us home backyard gardeners. You go and you walk into like Bunnings, where most of us in Australia go and get our, like our large shopping sort of things, or local places where we can buy some fertilizers and things. I get my organic life from the co-op. But you walk down the gardening aisle, mate, and 70% of it is synthetic. And they even attach these labels with microbes. And you read it, and it's a synthetic fertilizer somehow coated with microbes to try and get the sale. So, yes, the management of these systems, and, obviously nitrogen fixes and clovers and cover crops is one of those ways to do that, and should be implemented into many of these systems now to store the nitrogen back into the ground, because a nitrogen fixer, what it does is it actually it helps when it's down the ground, the roots, it actually sets off all that microbes and bacteria and everything to repopulate and stuff. So it's really good stuff and should be a part of the system. Okay, let's keep going. James, living soil is the best. Never had a problem. Totally agree, mate. And at the moment, what I'm doing is I'm just buying in bulk mushroom compost. I'm putting my compost worms through it in a windrow. I'm still got lots to breed up yet, so I've got a fair way to go. And then I'll actually be I can get tea tree mulch really cheap, so I'm going to be putting that around as covering the ground in the bare ground and things like that, and building up worm populations in the native soils. Then I'm going to be putting around my biggest worm farm ever systems around the space, connecting it all together eventually, and just making my own organic compost yet again, and teaching how I'm doing that. So as soon as I'm better, we're back into it. I'll get a load of the tea tree mulch yet, and then let the chickens sort of throw it all around the backyard. Okay. This is interesting. I'll just bring this up just quickly. It's a little bit sort of like, just if people want to check this out. Show how come money equals gold and silver. Currency is only worth the faith that its monetary value. Fiat currencies, as with all previous ones, turn into their intrinsic value of zero. Very much so. Yep. Wouldn't disagree in that at all. Fiat currency is all to do with how much faith we have in it, how much trust we have in it. And at the moment, big things happening in gold and silver. And if you're into prepping, and like I have been a little bit over the last 10 years, big fan of that. And yeah, and I won't say too much more about that. Let's go across to Greenleaf Gardening. Our young little gardener here, we like to support you, my friend. Hi, you were talking about a live stream for next year, but you never responded. Why? Oh, look, mate, I haven't been well. Sometimes I miss comments and things like that. So anyway, but go to martysgarden.com.au, right? And type in, write an email to me there, and it will go to my email system. And then we will look at getting you on to a live stream next year, my friend. That will be good. I'd like to support your channel and young guys moving through. Awesome stuff. Let's keep moving forward. Okay, our first worm farming question. Fire out your worm farming and gardening organic questions, guys. We're ready to roll. And we've got our first one for the day. Marty, how many worms would you say you have now? Okay, so we got 10,000 from WormBiz, and then I got about another 1,600 from up the coast from a friend of mine, Shri. I bought, no, hang on, yeah, 1,000. So, no, 6,500 from her, so that's 16,000, and I bought probably 2,000 with me, so that's 8. So we probably have about 18 to 20,000 as we speak in a series of worm farms, and in my biggest worm farm ever system, which is like another old big above ground compost bin that someone gave me. and connect it up to a windrow. So once they move out of that big system, the biggest worm farm ever system, into the windrow, we start feeding the windrow. That's when our populations will really grow quite big, and then we'll see sort of where we go from there. There is the odd rat and mouse around that wants to eat a few, and they can eat quite a lot in the night. So we've got a few little battles ahead of us. But great question, and thanks for asking. Let's move on to KP. Q, me again. I took all my soil from my pots and dumped it in a pile. Have been feeding it for almost a year. It's full of worms. Using that to start new beds. Will I need to add more castings? No. If there's worms in it, you don't have to add more castings. It'll be perfectly fine. They're dropping their manure in it. Their castings in it. They're moving the biology around, things like that. I'd be just inclined, if you've got some nitrogen around, throw it on top, such as, which we're talking about nitrogen at the moment, such as coffee grounds. It's one of the most undervalued nitrogen sources on this planet as we speak about today. And it's been always been it was a big part of my Marty's Garden compost system, which probably was my secret ingredient. So yeah, if you can get hold of some of that, just throw it on top, allow the worms to eat that, and you will have a really beautiful product. And if someone can come across and solve this problem of collecting, the whole thing with coffee grounds is collecting the coffee grounds. That's the managing side of it. It's not so much the use of it, and we all know how to use it and apply it and things, but actually collecting it, that's where there's a lot of energy involved, from going from cafe to cafe and time and things like that. And I think that's one of the reasons why. But in the future, when the government and the councils aren't picking up their waste, they're going to have to pay someone to take away their waste. Then all of a sudden, there's new businesses ready to be made, and coffee grounds could be one of them, because you'll get paid for your time to pick up the coffee grounds, which is something that needs to happen into the future. Big money in coffee, always has been, and it's almost like our little form of tax in a way. I don't know if that's the right word, but yeah. Let's keep moving on here. Manic Miner. Here we go. Another worm farming question. Manic Miner. Marty, tips on overwintering outside worm bins for colder climates. So what we need to do, small farms, we need to create as much body mass as possible. We need to treat it a bit like a hot farm without adding the water bottles. And we wrap them in blankets, and also bubble wrap is really good, because it's like a wetsuit. All those little bubbles hold the warmth, and so the warmth's coming out. We can add a bit of extra nitrogen into our worm farm, such as coffee grounds, but we've got to make sure the air can release, because those gases, the worms don't like those. So we've got to have air still be able to come out. And also, keep them away from cold breezes and cold places, off the floor as much as possible. Hot air risers, so we can get them up higher as possible. That's the thing. But what I do is I build hot compost systems, and then I get wood chip and leaves and things like that I get from local arborists. I add coffee grounds and nitrogen to it, any form of nitrogen, to heat it up. And then I sit the worm farms around the outside, or the worms sit in the compost around the edges where they want to be. So hopefully that helps you with that question, Manic Miner. And yeah, if you're just doing a very small one, bubble wrap will help quite a lot. But just remember, they still need the air. Okay, let's keep moving forward here. Deb's backyard, and it's a question. Thank you for putting the question in front. That helps me a lot. I can read it when I'm looking in my software here. I've had my worm farm for around 7 weeks. When will castings be ready to grab out? Did I hear about 3 months? That's a great question, Deb. And yes, on average, it takes about 3 months for that to happen. Your first worm farm will take a little bit longer, As they establish themselves and you're getting some good bacteria into the farm, when you clean it out, you don't take out all the castings. You leave, quite a few handfuls sort of in there around the edges. You don't wash out your worm farm, things like that. You leave it dirty with the old castings and microbes and bacteria in there, and it will set off much faster. When you're using fresh cocoa peat, it will take a little bit longer because the cocoa peat at the beginning hasn't got any bacteria set it onto it whether it's pH neutral, so it's okay to use, but it will take longer to break down. So one of the ones I really recommend is once you get used to it, you've done cocoa peat, you start adding like mushroom compost and composts and things like that into your worm farms eventually, and move away from cocoa peat if you can. You can also add, like I was saying, so you've got your bottom layer of cocoa peat, you start adding some sugarcane on top, and as you're adding the sugarcane on top, that'll start breaking down, then you start adding a little bit more sugarcane, and then eventually your sugarcane or your straw, whatever, that will just become the bedding as well. And the bacteria that's attached into the farm, into that system, is already there, and it goes, hey, I know about eating sugarcane, I understand how to eat that, I understand how to set myself up and get that. And then the worms go, I eat that too now, I know what that my food source is. And so we develop this system, and so you can really do it in around about a good turnover around about 6 to 8 weeks when they're really happening. But on average, 3 months is generally what happens. Yeah, and depending how far you want to let your castings go as well. If you're really sort of like want to get everything eaten and consumed, then it takes a little bit longer. But I think don't get too fussy. Get it in and out, use it because you just want to use it, and go from there. But it's all about the way, your choice when it comes to collecting the castings. So thanks for the question, Deb. Let's move on to the next one. Here we go. KP's got a tip for us all. KP tip. I have a great tip for everyone. I'm in Florida. I cover my pile with cardboard and then keep 40% shade cloth over it. Lets the rain in and holds everything in place. Great tip. Thank you so much for sharing that, KP. I'm a big fan of cardboard and also shade cloth, and I cover my windrows in shade cloth. I've got to get some, actually. I was just thinking that the other day. So thank you very much. Yeah, cover your compost piles like that and let the rain in. Great tip, mate. Manic Miner. Thanks, Marty. I'm a Hungry Bin owner. Yes, they're good systems. I have like a little bit of a love-hate relationship with the Hungry Bin, but I still think they're an okay farm. And good luck. They do work quite well. And like I said, I've had them in the past. All right, let's keep moving down. Some people chatting in here, from Mountaintop Wibblers to Manic, Simplified Gardening. G'day, Tony. Lovely to see you here, mate. Tony's got a great book out on composting if you'd like to ever have a look at that at some stage. And will be coming on the show in the near future. I just haven't been in touch with you because I haven't been that well. But all the best, mate, into the new year. And thank you for having me on your show the other week. Much appreciated. Let's keep moving down. If you've got any comments or questions at all regarding worm farming, organic gardening, I've currently got close to 20,000 compost worms here now, I guess, and they'll be just starting to really get into the breeding cycle now. So we could be looking at anywhere from 40 to 60,000. I'm hoping by the end of this summer season here, if they move into the windrows as I'm expecting. But we'll see. There's always challenges and things along the way, and then we'll see if we can triple it up again going into. But that would be great. We double it again. It means we'd have 120,000 by the time we sort of got to the end of autumn. Don't know if we'll get there, but it's worth a shot, right? And hopefully, if I can keep my health all in line, then we can keep moving forward. And awesome stuff. Oh, really? Hey, Marty and Tony, it'd be good to see another video with you two. Yeah, well, sure. Tony's going to be coming on the show. And we had a great chat after our last show, and top guy, and very knowledgeable man in the area of composting for sure, and also, in organic gardening. So let's keep moving forward. And a few people in here saying, "G'day to you, Tony, mate. You've picked up a bit of a fan base in here, brother. Let's keep moving forward. Let's keep going." Well, you probably already had the fan base already. That's a silly thing to say, isn't it? You got quite a good channel happening there, mate. But you know what I mean. So it's good to see you here, brother. Marty, I have 1,000 and doing well now. I have 1,000. I thought I was doing well. That's really good. And you just stick with it, take care of them, and hopefully, if, in the right times of the year, they multiply by 3. So like in 3 months, you could have 3,000 if all goes well. But just look at sort of more of that doubling. And if we get any more than that, that's even great, because we come across these little hiccups and things along those lines. So I've got some water here. Quick sip. Now, I haven't got our theme song lined up for the end of the day. I'm still getting used to this software. So hopefully by next show, we'll have the theme song to play out with you, To the River by Michael Shines. Great song. And we'll just pull across some more comments here. Tali says I'm late, but that's okay. Tali, look, we can't make everything. But, we do the best we can, and just appreciate you just turning up just that little while. We don't go much longer than an hour anyway, and so we will probably finish up fairly soon, unless a couple more questions sort of roll in. And, a few people commenting in here and just having a chat together and enjoying time of this community. And as I talked about right at the beginning of the show, if you missed it, I read an article about the nitrogen wars in Netherlands. And Tony, actually, from Simplified Gardening, would probably know more about this, being in UK, connected closer to these countries or what's going on. So it'd be interesting to find out something from you maybe in the future there, Tony, if you know anything. But we're going back into the history of looking at for the early 1800s right through to 1909. Bat guano was used, bird guano was used to replenish soils. Because basically what was happening is even by the 1800s, is they were losing soil quality and, degradation of soils. And they also saw that they could make a lot of money as well. It's always about the money, right? But also the governments are saying, hey, well, we need to feed our people. We need more soils. And so they actually went off to the ocean when they actually started ruining the rivers and things and started getting fish and stuff like that out of the ocean. And then the local fishermen actually depleted the rivers and the local sources quite good, because they couldn't get out to sea into the really big boats and things. And so then they had to go search abroad. And, it was the man, so I've got his name here somewhere, if I can find it, the Parisian Alexander von Humboldt, that brought it back to Europe, right? And and started the whole revolution of nitrogen. And to this very day, we're actually going, hang on, well, we don't want to make it and whatever, and we actually want to take it away from people. But then it's more about the management of the nitrogen, which actually solves the problem. So you can, people aren't stupid. These scientists aren't stupid. So these big agendas are out to push these farmers out, unfortunately, and not look at these solutions. So that's why I'm saying, if you can, buy local, support whoever you can in these situations who are growing food around you. And even if they are small, smart farms around you, you're still supporting local, right? If you just want more of the organic stuff like I do, then grow your own and look at any sort of small local farms. But just be aware that, some of the hydroponic stuff that is sourced close to you is much better than some, say, organic stuff that's maybe been shipped all the way from overseas and things like that. It still has a better nutrient density, because food starts losing its nutrition as soon as it's harvested. That's why I'm a big advocate for growing our own, is we instantly get that nutrition straight away, and the flavors and everything can save money. And we can, by worm farming and composting, we can control our own nitrogen cycle and actually take control of our own food. And as I said, at the beginning or halfway through, I've never really regarded myself as a prepper, but in the last 10 years, I've been slowly going that way, because I'm just seeing so many things being taken away from us. And with you know, they say about the fight of inflation. I don't want to talk about fighting, but I want to talk about actually what is happening around us, the reality of what's happening around us. We all know that we're walking out with less value for our dollar in the shops and for our food and things like that. So we really need to start taking some more control of our own space, our own place, and the way that we spend money into the economies, and stand up against these things like this. Don't allow it to happen if it starts popping up in your yard, because the people need a voice, right? And we'll just keep going through. And we got a question here from TG. Now, as I said before, please excuse me if I miss a few questions here and there. Getting used to the software again, and it's not always easy to get to everyone and everything. I do the very best I can, though. Questions: do worms naturally have lumps on them? I saw my worms twisted up and the big lumps on. They are okay. Yes, they do. I'm not feeling so well, so I'm going to be finishing soon. But the little lump is actually where they breed, and that's where the sperm comes out, and they're hermaphrodite. And so when they're wrapping around each other, they're sharing this, and this is how the cocoons start. So, yep, perfectly fine. And if you want them and you don't see lumps on them, it just means that I think it's clitellum, I think is the name for it, for the lump. So if you don't see that, it just means that the worm isn't matured yet into maturing stage for the breeding cycle, which can take around 3 to 6 weeks, depending on the type of worm. And I missed a question about a worm blanket, apparently, here. If I have, I can't see it. I'm very sorry. You may need to have to ask it again. But as you can see, my nose is starting to block up and things, and we will. Maybe you can sing the song. That's a funny one. Okay, we'll keep moving down. Keep moving through. Any more questions that I may have seen or missed? Okay, let's just have a look at this one. Michael Bissett, I got some of those grow bags to grow in. The worms took over and they are cheap and a good place to start. Yeah, grow bags are really great. I grow a lot of things in grow bags, and really good way to get started before you plant things out in the ground is grow bags. And you can actually farm worms in them as well, because they get a lot of air. They just dry out really quickly, so just be aware of that. All right, so what we're going to do now is, I don't have the theme song, but please send your goodbyes. And if I did miss any questions, again, I'm very sorry. We're getting used to this. Oh, excuse me, that software. And, it's all a bit of a new learning game for me. But I believe that I can make it slowly better in time. So if you missed the content, remember the Guano Wars. That's the one about the history of nitrogen. And then you can look at the nitrogen wars in Netherlands if you want to find out what's going on. If you don't know about the World Economic Forum yet and the Great Reset, you need to look at that now. I've been holding off letting people know about that. You can have your own thoughts and opinions about it. I don't want to share mine too much here, but you need to make your own decisions on this, as I am not an economic advisor. I cannot tell you what to think, feel, or how to be. I can only tell you how I sort of think about it. And KP says, rest, Marty. We can visit later when you are better. I will rest up now. And yes, as I said, start sending your comments across, your goodbyes, and we will finish up. We've got 28 people watching. I've got no idea how many thumbs up we've had today. If you haven't given us a thumbs up, please do before you go. If you've enjoyed the show, you got some value out of it, and we will be working out this Emacs software as we progress through. Happy New Year, KP. Here we go. Hang on. I'm struggling here a little bit. Happy New Year, everyone, from KP. 18Bs. Good seeing you all. Until next time. Simplify Gardening from Tony. Good stuff, mate. Thank you, Tony. Have a wonderful new year, my friend. We'll speak soon. Rick Delane, have a wonderful new year. Stay safe, everyone. Okay, I'm going to stop talking. I'm just going to put them across now and save my voice. And I will have some more videos coming out. I'll go through this and see if I can find any snippets of gold in here to reshare. And we will look at a new video coming out. I'm thinking about doing something about the problems and times that I've been having with these raised beds and share some of that with you so you can avoid some of the mistakes that have happened to me. And yeah, I think that might be a good video coming up. But we'll just move these across now and I will say, wave you goodbye, save my voice. Happy New Year, everyone. Have a wonderful, safe time. Blessings to all you and your families. And I love you all. Stay safe and I will see you into the next year. To the river we go. Can't help myself, I love that song. We'll have to get that song sorted for next time. Someone else is trying to contact me via my phone too. It's gone ding, ding. Thanks, mate. Yeah, maybe just for a couple of hours. Just it's not far. It's about half an hour drive from where we are. All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming to watch the show. I really appreciate it. I really love you all. And we got some great stuff coming up as the garden grows here at Marty's Garden. It's really expanding into something pretty amazing here. I'm going to be producing all my own nitrogen on site. And then we may look at the future and see how things go of turning this into a micro farm again, if I can get the hands to do it, or just showing you how to develop your own, as long as becoming more self-sufficient and preparing into 2023. Have a great day. Happy everything and happy new year. Bye for now.